So yeah, nice select group here. That's fantastic. Got to say, when I chose this title, I didn't really think through what day it was going to be delivered on. That was purely coincidental, but maybe quite appropriate. But let's not dwell on that. Okay, so I'm going to present a point of view to you. You might disagree. You might have some proof that I'm completely wrong, and that's okay, that's great. What I like maybe is to have a bit of a conversation, so when I've come to the end, very happy to not just have questions, but maybe have a little bit of a debate around the room as to whether you agree with me, whether you think I'm on the right tracks, or actually if I'm completely wrong. It'd be nice if I'm wrong, but I'm going to present that point of view anyway. So this idea came out of a conversation with John Funnell, who many of you know, who began organising this event. And he asked me the classic question, okay, so what are your issues in marketing? Nice open question. And we started talking and quickly went down this almost a rabbit hole of gloom and despair about where we might be heading. And he said, actually, that's a great idea for a talk. Why don't we turn that into a discussion? So that's what we've done. So hey, a little bit about me and the company. So you might not know Belron, but maybe you get a little bit of an idea from the logo. I suspect that's a little bit familiar to some of you. If I say the brand Autoglass, hopefully quite a few of you will be aware of that. For our US colleagues, you might know Safelite Autoglass in the US. That's our brand. If anybody here from elsewhere in Europe, or is everyone else here in the UK? But in Europe, we're known as Carglass. Essentially, the brand is, or the product is the same the world over. We repair and we replace vehicle windscreens, or vehicle glass, and we're the biggest in the world at doing that. And we've been around for quite a long time, quite a traditional industry. I would say we know quite a lot about marketing. We've been doing it for quite a long time, and again, quite traditional. I was very interested in that last discussion from Salesforce, that certainly the evolution of marketing over time, that absolutely mirrors what we've done. We got onto radio very heavily, and then we shifted into TV, and then we've gone a lot more digital over recent years. But one thing we are very absolute about is we are a direct response advertiser. We do advertising in order to make the phone ring, and in order to get people to book online, of course. But it's all about making stuff happen in the consumer's mind. I think that's important to remember, and I guess that's why I feel that I'm qualified to have this conversation with you. Okay. Is there anybody here from Direct Line, by the way? Otherwise, I might have to just change what I'm going to say. So a few weeks ago, I was at a kind of a similar event to this, actually, and I watched a presentation by a guy called Mark Evans, who's the marketing director at Direct Line. Some of you may know him. Great guy. Really nice guy, really. I think he's a very sound leader of marketing teams. And he gave this presentation, and it was really interesting. He was talking about the turnaround of the brand. I mean, Direct Line's a well-known brand, but it had begun to lose market share, and it had begun to lose its way over several years. And as a team, they've gone back to basics, and they've discovered their purpose, and it turns out insurance is about fixing things. And that's a really interesting insight. And so they've built that into a whole a whole ethos around the business. And the persona of the fixer is this guy, Winston Wolfe. I guess everybody knows who that is, the reference to Pulp Fiction. You've probably seen the executions of this idea. You've certainly seen the TV ads. There's several versions of it. There's the plumber and his ball cock. There's the girls who are stuck on the side of the road and with the blow-up body in the back of the car. All of those great ads. But the point is, point for me is, actually, this is a TV campaign. It works great. It worked great on TV, and I'm sure the website experience is great as well. I'm sure the apps are good. I'm sure they've got digital versions of this out there. I'm sure you can see YouTube executions. I'm sure there are videos and all sorts. But absolutely, this is a TV campaign, and I was kind of disappointed at this point in the presentation, because I was really looking forward to seeing how Direct Line had used digital to push their message, to reinvent the brand and everything else. But effectively, what they've done is come up with a great idea and executed it through a fabulous TV campaign. It was not digital marketing. And I think, quite honestly, in a lot of cases, marketing still needs TV to be effective. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I think is probably not controversial. Traditional TV viewing is decreasing. It's probably a little bit slower than you might think. TV is certainly not dead. Again, back to the Salesforce presentation, there's an awful lot of movement around what's happening, and it's a lot more complicated than just a simple decline. There's a lot of switching of media. There's probably more attention to media by individual people than there has been at any point ever. But it's really fragmented, it's really complicated, and where traditional TV is declining, it's the non-traditional viewing that's increasing. And trying to understand exactly what's happening with those audiences is pretty complicated. It's a real headache. But the point is the media is fragmenting. It's becoming more and more difficult to reach the people that we want to reach through what we might call traditional TV. So I don't think that's controversial. Maybe this is a little bit. I think that a lot of digital marketing really just does not work. And just to be clear here, what I'm talking about is advertising using digital. There's plenty of other stuff that does work, works brilliantly. So, customer experience, having great websites, doing e-commerce, obviously the whole point of e-commerce, customer service, be it through social channels or whatever. It's all stuff that reduces friction. It makes it easier for businesses to do business. And that's changing rapidly, and there's some great stuff going on there. Search is still a cornerstone of a lot of digital marketing. It's super important. That's my background. I'm quite fond of search as a medium. Search is actually biased towards existing larger brands. It's partly the way the quality score works, if any of you know the details of that. But essentially, if you're a bigger brand, if you're better known, you get a better click-through rate, and therefore you get cheaper advertising. So search is inherently biased towards bigger brands. If you are a small business, then there's a lot of stuff you can do with digital. You can build your brand. If you're a local business, you can build your brand on social media. You're probably not ever going to go on TV or radio. You can run a very local PPC campaign. You can do all sorts of stuff with your website. So there is stuff that works there. And email, of course. And again, maybe I should have done a joint presentation with Salesforce, but some really great stuff there. But in CRM, the clue maybe is in the C, customer. It kind of assumes that you're talking to a customer if you're going to start sending out mailings and build that relationship with them. So I want to bring it back to advertising and marketing in general, and especially advertising for big brands. The purpose of advertising is to affect customer behavior. You want people to buy more. You want them to buy more expensive things. You want them to maybe switch brands or think of a brand in a different way, use something for a different purpose. And honestly, my belief is that digital marketing rarely achieves that. Now, I've got plenty of proof from my own brands, from Autoglass and Carglass and Safelite. We've done lots and lots of tests around the world. We've done lots of display advertising. We've done lots of video. We've done takeovers. We've done all sorts of things. We've looked at different ways of using programmatic, using audience data, stuff that is very clever, and there's a lot of invention going on in that world. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't affect customer behavior, it kind of doesn't matter how clever the tech gets. It just doesn't have the impact. So, and I've also talked to a lot of other senior marketers at events like this, and whilst often they'll stand up and they'll talk about their fantastic attribution system and how everything gets attributed down to the last pixel, when you take them aside at the end and say, yeah, but actually, how much of that really drives your brand? How much of it really grows your sales? They say, yeah, well, we do kind of rely on TV, actually, to make that happen. Now, I'm always looking out for case studies. I'm always reading in the press. I like Ad Exchange. I think it's a good publication, good website. I'm always looking for case studies on digital marketing. And I saw this headline, and I thought, great. So it's a digital-only launch of a new brand. So that's got to be a great place to test. Surely that's got to be almost like a laboratory study of how we can do some great digital marketing. So I read on, and yeah, no, it's all looking good, actually. Can't wait to read the results. Oh dear, there aren't any. And this was and this happens time and time and again. You read the launch of a new campaign, and we're going all out on digital, or we're going to be executing on some amazing, really clever video that we've retargeted from some other system, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, where are the results? How many more shoes did you sell? How many more whatever did you make happen? And so often, you just don't get the results. I think part of the reason for that is it's actually quite possible to do digital marketing and not measure the results. So in effect, the digital team gets away with it, and they might have a lot of their own measurements, but maybe they're not being measured at the very top level. And if you don't measure the effectiveness of everything you're doing, then changing 10% or shifting 10% of your budget into a digital platform actually isn't going to make much difference. And again, my opinion, I think a lot of marketing is not truly measured. It's measured to some extent, but it's not truly measured. And when that happens, if you take away the support of TV, where are the digital marketers going to stand? Where will the brand marketers hide? And even Martin Sorrell, who's probably spent the best part of the last 5 years just buying up digital agencies in order to get that part of the pie that he doesn't currently hold, even he's said, actually, maybe we've gone a bit too far in some cases. Maybe some brands need to just back off a bit on this digital push. So are there any solutions? Is it all doom and gloom? Is there anything that holds a bit of light at the end of the tunnel? I just basically scribbled down a few ideas. So native. You get a lot of agency pitches that start with, we all know that traditional marketing isn't so effective anymore, and so brands are beginning to switch to native advertising. That's a nice idea, but I think it's kind of been trashed. It's
What is it?
okay. Native advertising is, I don't know if there's a dictionary definition, but it's essentially advertising that doesn't look like advertising. It's maybe formatted in the format of a publication, so it looks a bit more like an article, or you can even go as far as branded content and having whole productions produced by brands, but essentially it's not a fixed advertising format, but it's still produced by a brand. And a lot of that is very lowest common denominator stuff. It's the, more from the web. You might be interested in this story. And a lot of those, as we know, are really just clickbait nonsense. And there's very little quality, I would say, in this side. I certainly don't think it's the future of advertising. Content marketing, again, you'll be sold this all the time by various agencies. Certainly given SEO a new lease of life and a new purpose. But I would argue, does engagement with content really make the phone ring? TV, as we said, is not dead, and maybe we should just change our definition of TV, and maybe that will actually be part of the future. The TV isn't the device. TV is the content, the premium content, The Walking Dead. It's the things that that people actually want to change their schedule to go and watch. Maybe that's what TV really is, and maybe that's always going to continue. I buy into that one. Mobile, absolutely crucial. Again, for all those things that are great, like great customer experience, finding people at the right time, the right place, that's great. But a lot of ads don't necessarily make a difference to behavior, unless maybe you're a gaming company, you want to install a gaming app. Yeah, there are certain things that are very cool on mobile, but there's an awful lot that isn't. And again, advanced TV, again, there's maybe not a specific definition, but I'm talking about TV becoming more programmatic. So TV buying becoming more like the way we do a lot of programmatic digital right now. I'm convinced that there's an awful lot that the media buying, the TV part of media buying can learn from everything that's gone on in digital in the last 5 to 10 years, certainly the last 5 years. There's a huge amount that they're going to learn, and maybe that's part of the future, that TV will be there. It's just it'll be bought impression by impression at some point in the future. There was a nice little piece about Instagram shopping just now in the previous one. Again, nice idea. I'm sure it's really useful. I'm sure it can give you a little bit of incremental value. But are you going to build a brand using Instagram shopping? So I'm just going to go over my thesis, just to be really clear. I think marketing needs TV in some form or another. I think we'd all agree that TV is becoming difficult, harder to make work. Some people think it's dead. I don't, but I think it's becoming harder. I don't think digital is filling that gap. Digital is doing other things, but it's not filling that gap. So where are we? Is there a future? Are we actually staring into the abyss? How are we going to build big brands in the future if we don't have TV and we can't use digital? What are we going to do? Okay, so that's my idea. Very happy to have a discussion about it.